years of strength, will, and desire, building a future for me and you. Let's get inspired and shine the spotlight on the CUSW. Hello, and welcome to the CUSW Spotlight Podcast, brought to you by the Canadian Union of Skilled Workers, established in 1999. CUSW has been empowering its members and shaping the future of skilled trades for over 25 years. In this podcast, we shine a spotlight on the people, stories, and values that make CUSW a strong and dynamic community. It's an exciting time to be part of this union, and we're here to celebrate the journey, achievements, and dedication of skilled workers. So turn up the volume and let's get started. Here's your host for the CUSW Spotlight Podcast, Mr. Dan Plexman.
All right, it's time to flick the switch and warm up the CUSW Spotlight. Today on the podcast, we're joined by Johnny Issaluk. Johnny has lived a very full life. He's had lots of experiences, opportunities, and he's a man that faces challenges head on, that's for sure. Reading his biography, it's really interesting to hear the things that he's done. He's competed at the highest level of sport, professional Inuit Games elite athlete. It's taken him around the world, 30 countries. He's won over 200 medals. He did it for 20 years. He's been on the big screen as an actor, big time. He's been a coach. He's been a mentor. He's done a lot of things. And we are very proud to have him on the show today. And reading all this stuff, it's really intriguing and it's really exciting. But that's not what I found most interesting about this guy. Reading his bio, he said three things that really stood out to me. The first one, he said, it's been a long time since I've really enjoyed the work I do like I do now. Second thing, I will retire here. Third thing, this is me. These aren't words of the typical 53-year-old man. We're the same age. We've talked about this a little bit. A lot of people think that guys our age, we're getting ready to retire. We're getting ready to kick back, but not this guy. He's looking for new challenges, and it's really encouraging. It's really exciting to talk to him today. Hey, Johnny, how's it going today? How are you?
It's going really well. Thanks for having me, Dan, and for me to talk with CUSW. I'm really excited about this because, I enjoy talking about what makes a difference in my life and also with others.
Right on. Yeah, we're all excited to have you on the show too. You're probably one of the biggest stars we've had on the show, to be honest. Can we talk a little bit about your life before you joined CUSW and kind of highlight the things that I mentioned in my introduction to with you?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in Chesterfield Inlet, which is off the coast of Hudson's Bay, and there's roughly 300 people. A very isolated place. Only way to get there is by airplane, boat, snowmobile. And I grew up very traditionally there, meaning I learned how to build an igloo when I was 12 years old, know how to make all the traditional tools, shot my first caribou when I was 5 years old. And my parents grew up nomadically. They were brought to the community of Chesterfield Inlet, Igloo as teenagers from the land. And so I'm one generation nomadic. I know firsthand all the traditions and my language. I'm very fluent with it.
I think I have a brief idea of what the term nomadic means to me, but to the viewers out there, can you give a little more definitive term with the term nomadic?
When I mean nomadic, my parents were of the land prior to being moved to a community where people were more than 5 people, 6 people. So they lived in steel skin tents, caribou skin tents. In the winter, they lived in igloos and had dog teams and sleigh, hamutik built with skins and driftwood off the land. So that's what I mean, nomadic. They were of the land. They lived off from meat, oil they caught, and berries we get up there, geese and everything in the seasons that we get.
Yeah, I imagine the season dictates how you live for that period of the year.
As much as I love summer, my favorite season is the winter, because I can go as far as I want, anywhere I want. All the dream spots we see on the map in the winter, I can get there. And we have no trees in the Arctic, so I can drive pretty much through anywhere I want to.
Yeah, you've got an unlimited highway there once everything frees up.
It's a dream. The dream.
Could only imagine being up that far.
And one of the reasons why I really like working for CSW Hydro 1 is that I get to travel to different places. I'm not stuck in one spot. Like, I get to drive everywhere. I love traveling. So even with this job, I get to go where I am needed.
Yeah, that was one of the big draws for myself. Being a teenager, decided to work construction. I loved being able to hop in the car and go to a different job site. Sometimes you almost feel like you're a professional athlete. You roll into a new town and you're the new kid on the block kind of thing. You got to figure things out and find out where to eat, find out where to sleep. You stay there for a few weeks and then you go to the next town. I really enjoyed that. So I get that totally.
Well, I agree with you there. It's sometimes nerve-wracking going into a different area. Like, as an apprentice, you got to move around every 6 months. And so you get comfortable and then you get nervous about where you're going. But every site I've been to, every CSW member, they're nothing but helpful. And the guidance is there and teach you everything you need to know to be able to do the job you love doing. And I really appreciate that about them.
Yeah, we're lucky to be part of such a tight community, that's for sure. Getting back to the CUSW family here, how did you get into the trades? Like, your introduction, it's everything but the trades. Being an athlete, being an actor, a professional speaker, a mentor, a coach, all this stuff had nothing to do with trades. How did you get into it?
So growing up, my father, once he got into the community, he became a heavy-duty mechanic for a hamlet. And so my mechanical skills have been around since immemorial. Like, he was the best at his trade. And growing up in the Arctic, you have to be everything, because, like I said, everything's isolated. And when you have a snowmobile 100 miles middle of nowhere that breaks, or an outboard motor or a boat, all you have is what you have in your hand. And so every hunt you do is basically a survival. And every hunter up there knows how to fix what they have with what we have.
Yeah, you make do with what you have.
My family still lives up there. My brothers and my sisters. I'm one in a handful of people that decided I have to see the world. And it was because I was brought out to one of these alcohol and drug awareness as a teenager in junior high. Me and my cousin Bradley, we were brought down to Winnipeg, Manitoba for this drug and awareness thing for students. And there they had athletes like Olympians, like the crazy Canuck 𝗝𝗵𝗆𝗆𝗀𝗃𝗃. And then I met Owen Morris, the first Indigenous man to get a gold medal for Canada. And, that just blew my mind. I was like, what? This happens around the world? Like, these people are elite. I've seen them on TV and I'm like, I can do that. And so, being motivated by everybody else around me on TV, because most of the things we've seen at home were on TV, if we had it.
What a mind-blowing experience there. It's like you're experiencing this on TV, like you said, and it's a world away. And the next thing you know, you're rubbing shoulders with these guys. It's crazy.
Oh man, it was like, that still makes me sweat and happy meeting them, because here I am now in a job I really, really enjoy. All the challenges, all the excitement, all the unknowns. There's so many unknowns when we're working in the electrical field. And I really like that. Growing up, I always challenged myself to be better at what I do. And of course, I have fears where I feel like I can't, or something's wrong, or everything. So, I always challenge myself. Terrified of heights, so I went skydiving. Claustrophobic a little bit. So I learned to scuba dive, and I scuba dive in probably 10 different countries. And jumping out of the plane took a little nudge from the trainer, but he already knew who I was within the 5 minutes of our conversation. So him nudging me was the best thing that ever happened to me. And
what you're describing there, you're not describing fear, you're describing bravery. When a person's fearful and they still make the choice to follow through and do what they need to do and face those fears. Pure bravery, man. Bravery.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Looking back at Ken Reed and Owen Morris, and then becoming an athlete myself, over time, people asking me questions about how did you get there? What did you do? After a while, I realized I was that kid who was inspired to be where I am today. And so that was one of the reasons why I faced my fears. I challenged myself, I put myself out there to be better. A lot of the work I did in my life, it was to inspire and help and maybe make a change in some of the societal challenges that we face today, we still face today. And, it's tough. It's hard, but we got to keep working at bettering ourselves and work together, help each other out, and understand why we're here, why we are the way we are.
Yeah, if I can transition into a little bit of a different topic here, but it's still on the same train of thought here. Talking about fears and bravery. In one of our previous conversations, you talked about your journey to sobriety. That's another brave thing that I feel about you. Can we touch a little bit about that subject?
Yeah, of course. Because when I went to the alcohol and drug awareness as a teenager, I was drinking. I was already drinking. And, at home, one of the biggest things about home and the small communities is that everything's extreme. So if there's oppression, if there's depression, if there's pain and anger, everybody feels it within the community. And so, I've had trauma since I was a young kid growing up, even up to today. I still face trauma. One of the ways to suppress that was alcoholism, and I took some marijuana for a while too. But that one I quit a while back, and I stayed drinking. I drank a lot. I drank right up until I moved down south, which was in 2020 January.
I guess being from Nunavut, everything is south.
Yes, everything is south. When people say Toronto is north,
yeah, you laugh.
I started to laugh, but then I've been all over the world. I've been to 30 different countries, and when they say north, Toronto is north, like I understand. I visited maybe 700 schools doing motivational talks and inspirational talks. And at one point, one of the teachers introduced me to the students, like an assembly of students, and said, "Let's welcome Johnny to Canada." And I was visiting a school in Toronto. Let's welcome Johnny to Canada and make him feel welcomed. And one of the 7-year-old girls were like, excuse me, I think Nunavut's in Canada. I was like, that's right. And so I totally understand that saying it's north. is still being understood. Like education is key, and I really appreciate the education system, school system, how we try to utilize the idea of educating people about not only certain topics around the world, but everything, inclusion, and getting off topic here, but making aware of why we are the way we are sometimes. Like when I say I don't drink, some people ask me, what? But you're indigenous. You're from the Arctic. And I'm like, yeah, I don't drink. It took a lot of work. It took a lot of self-awareness, but I know the spirit of my mom, my grandma, my people have helped me develop that strength to be able to conquer the pain and anger and shame in my life that, of course I've made mistakes in my life, like stuff I could forgive myself for. I didn't realize forgiving myself was a thing for me to move forward in my life, like forgiving my parents or forgiving my friends, forgiving the people that, did harm to me or tried to do harm to me. And I don't get bothered by people yelling at me or trying to put me down or talk about me. I don't get bothered by that anymore because only I can really push myself down to the ground and say, like, you're not worth it. But I don't say that. So if you're aware of self-sabotage or people sabotaging you, the most powerful thing to yourself is that what you say about yourself, even jokingly, it affects you, it affects your body. And so when people say negative things straight to me, it bounces off me. Like if you say something that's negative to me and I accept it, then it bothers me. But if it doesn't resonate to who I am, how I grew up, where I come from, then it doesn't bother me. And so sobriety, I think, kind of gave me the strength to be able to understand my thought process, my health, my physique, my mental strength. And, it's a sickness for myself anyway. So it was a way of, like, I understand why my dad drank and hurt us. Like he's a great man, great father. When my mom and I had a conversation about my dad once, I asked, has he always been like this? Like, why is he always so angry when he's drunk? She says, no. When we got married at 16, it was the best 2 years of my life. Every place we went to, I can compare him to wives and husbands. There was no comparison. He made sure I had the best skin, the best, like all the food, all the oil for my fire, all the needles from the sinew of the backstraps of caribou, and all the needles from the bones. And I had the cupboard of everything I needed to make sure we had the clothes, the food for our children. And then he got TB. He was sent down to the south for 3 years when he was 18. On the 19th birthday, his mother passed away. He was still down south. On the 21st year of his birth, he came back, short hair like myself right now, different clothes, drinking and smoking and beat me up. He started hitting me. And this is my mom talking. Is totally different person from like when he was sober, he still provided, just not as like my shelves were not as abundant or as clean, or food wasn't as, but still there, we still made do.
Yeah, it's amazing how some life experiences in just a short period of time can completely change a person. And that's all trauma related. It's life changes that happen to you when you're not ready for them. You don't want them. You're not ready, willing. That's not easy.
That was healing, though, to hear that.
Right.
And then fast forward 30 years, I haven't talked to my dad about that. And then one day, me and my dad were drinking beer, and he's back to his self-loathing, self-shame, self-anger. And like, after a while, he's angry and just listening. And then I said, I understand. He looked at me with fury and, you have no idea. You don't understand. And so I listened for a little more. Then I asked him, when were you in the TD clinic again? He looked at me, he was shocked. After that, not one more word.
A major moment of reflection.
For the first time in his life, he felt like someone understood for the first time in his life. And after that, like weeks later, when he was sober, we had conversations that were meaningful about his past, his brothers and sisters, and his mom, how he was brought up by his mom, how he became the knowledge keeper, brought up by his mom, who I named after, and why he was the way he was. So the stories after I asked him about his life, like I heard bad stuff happen to people who went down to the TB clinic, but we never talked about it. He just talked about the good stuff in his past, about his brothers and sisters and my mom. And, it made a difference. When people understand where you come from and why you are who you are. I used to do a lot of counseling. I did counseling myself, but I also did counsel people who have trauma. It was a lot of tough stuff coming from the Arctic, but it was not only healing for them, because I understood where they came from. It was healing for me, seeing how they transitioned from when I started with them to the end of our time. Like you could see the difference in people, just reminding them of where they come from. Like we're making 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, the traditional sleigh. I'm helping them. And they're like, wait, like, I don't know how to do it. And then once we're showing them the techniques and how to do it, they're like, wait, I remember doing this with my grandpa. I know how, just reminding them, because trauma destroys memory, right?
Oh.
And so like, once you do it all your life, it just becomes a simple skill, making traditional tools. It's like, it's a simple skill that I was teaching him or reminding him. Next time I visit, dude was like, hey, Johnny, I made a 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, and I knew how to do it. I just forgot.
Kind of like tying your shoelaces or riding a bicycle. Once you learn it, you're never getting that skill.
Yeah. You have to understand each other, work with each other. And I love what CUSW does, like how we work together, like Hydro One. I really love my job. Like I said before, it's been a long time since I could remember waking up in the morning and getting ready. What are we going to do today? Yeah. What are we going to fix? Because we do a lot of helping people. Like without electricity, we need it today. What would we do? Scary. Scary when we run out of power once in a while, right?
Well, exactly. Like for guys like us, we can go a day or two without electricity, but when you're older in a retirement home, in a hospital, that sort of situation, the power can't go for any amount of time. It's life and death situation, and keeping the power on, it keeps people alive. It really does.
I didn't even think about that. Wow, yeah. I was already excited about helping people, but no, I never even thought about that.
Think about this one. It's a very simple situation. Toronto, 35 degrees Celsius, the power goes out. Every old age home air conditioning shuts off. That's a life and death situation within hours. It's not funny stuff. It's real life. And we contribute to society. Someone explained that to me when I first started being in my electrical apprenticeship. And I was like, wow, that is true. It makes you feel pretty good inside.
Wow. That just cut deep. Where I come from, elders are our library. And every chance I get, I try to talk to elders and listen to their story. When I was working up in the Arctic, I was doing the monument for the Arctic exile. I sat with an elder who was carving one of the monuments, and it took a week for me to have him tell me stories. A week, because a lot of the elders closed themselves in. Some still try to keep an open mind and still talk about stuff from the past, but some of the knowledge keepers just closed themselves because, long story short, their kids, their grandchildren were taken away from them, taken away for school, one after the other. After a while, they just kind of like, if I tell my story, is my great grandchild, maybe he'll be taken away, she'll be taken away. So maybe if I don't, they won't be taken away. So they shut themselves. This elder was telling me this. I'm like, what? That breaks my heart. And then he says, I have all the knowledge. Nobody's asking anymore. I'm like, what? As my dad was so annoyed sometimes that I had so many questions. And he said, no, nobody's asking about this. I was like blown away. And so I tried to ask a lot of questions, even though it's annoying. But after a while, they'll tell the story of who they are, where they come from. And so I have high regards for elders. And that cut deep when you said that. And we touched base about me retiring with CUSW. I meant it because I've had hundreds of jobs. I've enjoyed a lot of jobs. But this is one of those jobs that I know I'm going to retire with. I really enjoy it, and it's physical. I grew up as a hunter, as a mechanic. I've done everything in my life. I've done every work. Before I moved south, I was a manager in the premier's office, or I was like a director for suicide prevention organization. For 10 years, I've had these managerial jobs where I sat in the office. And I enjoyed what it was doing for the people. I'm physical.
Well, you're a physical problem solver. You like to use your brain to figure it out and then use your body to produce. That's how I look at myself anyway, but I've had to reframe my work skills now because I don't have the same physical skills anymore. So it doesn't matter who you are. You get to our age, you got to transition a little bit anyway.
No, I agree. In the Arctic, almost every weekend we're hunting, so it's very physical, getting ready, hunting and preparing, cutting animals, carrying animals, everything. So down here, there's a lot of driving, there's a lot of phone time, there's a lot of computer time, TV time. And so I love my job because it's physical, and it enables me to interact, and I get paid enough to register at a gym, so I stay healthy as much as I could, because I don't have the same physicality aspects as I did in the Arctic. And so, yeah, I love my job. This is who I am. This is where I'm going to be.
Yeah, we love to hear that. And getting back to the job, being a 53-year-old apprentice, walking on the job, people aren't assuming that you're an apprentice right away because of your age. Do you think there's a little bit more pressure put on you because of your life experiences? And do you think this life experience helps you as an apprentice, or do you think maybe it might slow you down a little bit because you're seeing more than the average apprentice is seeing?
Well, just last week, there was a certain group working in a different organization, and they see me, they could see my age, and then green hat. And so he's like, apprentice, what? Are you an apprentice? Like, is it? And like, I kept walking. I just walked right past them, and I'm like, I won't answer to you.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming a lot of apprentices have to answer to you. Sometimes I'm just going to keep rocking like it. Doesn't bother me.
I'm an apprentice because I made the choice.
Yes, with a lot of life experiences, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, I've done everything. I've built many houses. So, that brings a lot of skills to this work. So I'm lucky like that. And then I could see working with other apprentices, even journeymen, I could see it's what they know. And sometimes it's a struggle. Like they know their stuff. Just sometimes it's kind of challenging, like knowing some things more as opposed to, just knowing this. But you appreciate life a bit more when you're learning new skills from different people that have been doing this for many years, and it's beautiful.
Did you actually have like an aha moment or experience maybe before the job site or even after you went to your first CUSW job site where you realized that this is for me? Like you said, this is where I belong. This is where I'm going to retire. How did you know that? What clicked that switch in your brain where you just found your place? Because like I said earlier, you've had a whirlwind of experiences your entire life. And now you're 53 starting a new profession. And now you're saying, this is where I belong. It's like you belonged in so many other places before you got here. How did you realize this is the place? CUSW is my home.
When I first started, nerve-wracking. Going to a new job and people telling you during school, there's things that you're going to work on you don't understand, like electricity, the process, the work, where it comes from, how it works, how it can kill you in an instant. And like all this processing, and I'm like super nervous. I'm doing everything I could to study. I'm 52, going back to school is not very, I used to be a math wizard when I was in high school, junior high. I was like, even higher grade students would come to me like, how do we do this? And I'm like, easy, right? And then I'm back in school, I'm like, I can't math. What does this mean? I was like, no, it's just how it's going to be at work. It's just how it's expected. I thought it was going to be the same, but it wasn't. It was different every single site I went to. And at the second site, maybe a little bit more to the third site, I was like, I'm able to do this work. I know what to do. It was like a year into it when I realized this is me. This is where I belong. I can learn this. I'm learning this. This is the new challenge. I know the work they're doing right now. I'm watching. I'll be able to learn it in a year or so, 2 years maybe. But I can do this. It wasn't right at the time I started. It was probably 6 months to a year when I was like, whoa. That's where I've been.
That makes it even more, I don't want to say profound, but it makes it more solid. It wasn't just a moment. It was a process where you just built this idea where you realized this is for me. And it's kind of like starting any new relationship or forming a relationship with a person. Same thing with CUSW. Relationships aren't formed instantly. They're made by a process of time and respect and back and forth and communication. So for you to say that, it really lifts my heart, because I can tell the CUSW members that have brought you along the way from your first few jobs, they're showing you the right way, and they're bringing you in like the true CUSW family that we all profess to be. So it's nice to see that it's actually happening for you.
Yes, I'm very fortunate. I'm with CUSW, Hydro One, and the workers I work with, the people I meet. Like even just talking to you, it's very comforting to know that I can talk to people like you anytime I want. And going back to relationship up in the Arctic, because it's such a small community, you need to have a relation. And all my life, I had relations till I moved on to here, and I was like, I don't want any more relationship. Then I met someone 3 years later, and now we're talking every day, even though she's in a different province.
Oh yeah.
We're a good team.
Man, it's pretty cool how we've had previous conversations today, but right now is our real connection. And we've had a lot of parallels in our lives. Like you're talking about your love life now. We were the same age. I turned 53 in a couple months. I've been married for 5 years. First time I was ever married. You know what I mean? It took me a long time to find that right one. But now that I found her, it's changed my life. And getting back to that whole relationship topic, CUSW relationship, big factor in my life. Relationship with my wife, huge factor in my life. And all these other relationships, like you and I, we're starting a relationship. We're friends now, you know what I mean? And that's what this is all about. And that's why we have the show. And on behalf of the CUSW Spotlight podcast and everybody involved in the show, we really are honored to have you on the show here today. And in closing, is there anything that you would like to share with the membership? And it doesn't have to be about the job site. It doesn't even have to be about your experience with CUSW. Like something from Johnny Issaluk.
You know, life is the reflection of what you tell yourself and now others tell you. And I think that helped me a lot more than it used to, because I did tell myself so many times that I was stupid, that I was dumb, you can't do it. And then after I started telling myself, I'm beautiful, I know I'm beautiful, I know I can do it, I can do it. It's not stupid if you don't try. You know, I'm sober, I have a wonderful job, I got great friends, because I tell myself, this is who I am.
What a beautiful sentiment. What you said there reminded me of something that I learned early in my years of therapy after going through my life-changing accident and dealing with some of my childhood experiences that really affected my emotional state. One of my counselors made the point, was like, I was telling about an experience I had with someone giving me some negativity, and I learned their opinion of me is none of my business. And since I started living that way, it makes sense, because people can talk and say and think whatever they want of me. It's none of my business. I'm not in their brain. They're not in mine. And what you just said, that hit me deep in the heart. And I really appreciate that perspective, Johnny. And thank you so much for being on the show, man. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
For everybody watching us on the show today, if something triggered something within you and you need to reach out and get some help, please reach out to me, reach out to Johnny. You can find our information at the information page on the end of the show. Maybe you want to be a guest on the show. We want to hear from you. Please reach out to us and make the connection with us. Thanks, everybody. And until the next episode, keep that CUSW spotlight shining. Thank you.
Thank you for shining bright in the CUSW spotlight. Let's get inspired and shine a spotlight on CUSW.